get started. Call to order the Poquoson City School Board meeting for April 19th, 2011. And before we begin this evening, I'd just like to welcome our new board member, Thorben Inslee. On behalf of the board, welcome and thank you for your service to Poquoson City Schools. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Same do I.
Okay. And we'll start off this evening with the call to order and pledge to the flag. Melanie, would you introduce the students, please?
Mackenzie Simmons will be the leader of the pledge today. She is the second grader at Poquoson Primary School. She lives with her mom and dad, Detective and Mrs. Dale Simmons, and her older brother, Zach. Mackenzie likes to play outside, do sports, ride her bike, and read. Her favorite part of school is math and recess.
Welcome. My name is Mackenzie Simmons. Please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Fisher Deadman will be doing the inspirational reading today. He is also a second grader in Mrs. Henshaw's class. He lives with his mom and dad, Scott and Nicole, and younger sister, Peyton. Fisher loves to go to the beach, fish, ride his bike, and loves to play football. His favorite part of school is social studies and recess. Fisher is reading Take Time for the Little Things by Barbara S. Gosa.
Hi, my name is Fisher, and I will be reading parts of a poem written by Barbara Esqueza, entitled Take Time for the Little Things. Take time to appreciate the laughter of children enjoying the first days of spring. Take time to listen to the rushing stream as it glides swiftly under fallen limbs and over mossy pebbles. Take time to watch autumn's crispness paint changes from branch to branch, decorating the landscape for a short time. Take time to feel the cool breeze blowing and the promise of a summer rain. Take time to hear the clicking crickets echoing in the blackness. Take time to count the stars as they emerge from the graying sky one by one, filling the dark. Take time to hear the lapping waves pound against the grainy surface, then recede and answer. Take time to enjoy the fragrant sense of blooming newness and life, spreading an array of colors where brown slept many long months. Take time to follow a firefly as it winks across open air, chasing the evening silence. Take time to share a smile. Take time to give a hug. Take time to acknowledge a kindness. Take time to tell someone you care. Take time to say I love you. Thank you.
Thank you for that reminder. It's as busy as we all are. It's wonderful to be reminded to take time for those important things. Thank you. All right, we'll move into our student presentations, and after the presentation and the recognitions tonight, I'd like to ask all the students to stay present. We're going to take a short recess after the recognition so that we can come down and talk to the students tonight. Our presentation tonight is going to be started off with Crosby Forrest. He's in Miss Henshaw's second grade class at Poquoson Primary School. He lives with his parents, David and June Forrest, and his little brother, Will. Crosby loves to fish, skateboard, play sports, and likes to go to the beach. His favorite part of school is social studies, recess, and X10. Crosby will introduce the presentation for the class, which is entitled Habitats Projects.
Good evening. My name is Crosby Forrest, and I am in second grade. In March, my class studied habitats. We learned about habitats. We learned about different types of habitats and how animals and people adapt to them.
Everyone in my class chose a habitat and made a diorama that displayed the different types of plant and animal life in that particular habitat. My teacher, Miss Henshaw, was awarded a grant from the Poquoson Education Foundation that allowed her to purchase video equipment and of our class over a picture to make it appear as though we are in that place. Our class created a video about habitats and we hope you enjoy it.
Thank you very much. It's a great way to start the meeting. We'll now move into additions and or modifications to the agenda. Dr. Parrish, do we have any?
We have none tonight.
All right, then we'll move right into recognitions. Tonight, our first recognition is for the high school student who received the Art Gold Key Award. Dr. Parrish.
Send you down and I'll
Thank you.
get us going. 2 students were recognized by the National Alliance for Young Artists and Writers with the Gold Key Art Award. Julia West was recognized by the school board last month. However, since Jessica Evans was unable to attend that meeting, we are recognizing her this month. So Jessica, if I could ask you to come up to the podium. Jessica is a junior at Poquoson High School. She's a member of Mu Alpha Theta, Key Club, having served as chairman of the Christmas Float and March of Dimes committees for Key Club, JV Academic Challenge, Varsity Academic Challenge, where they were regional champions this year, Spanish Honor Society, where she served as vice president for 2 years, and the French Honor Society, also serving as vice president for the past 2 years. She is also a volunteer at Iris Art Studio, helping teach art classes to 8-year-olds, as well as preparing materials and cleaning up afterwards. She attended Star Talk Language Learning Academy at VCU last summer, studying modern standard Arabic for 3 weeks. She has won numerous awards over her 3 years in high school, including both English and World History Student of the Year, first place in NASA's 50th Anniversary Calendar Contest, a superior rating at the 18th Annual Concours de Français, a French-speaking contest, and was an Art 2 winner at the 2009 Poquoson Seafood Festival. She has just won the Scholastic Art and Writing Award of the 2011 Gold Key Award for Drawing. I have to say that I'm assuming somewhere in all of this you're also actually studying. It's quite a schedule, Jessica. Please join me in congratulating Jessica Evans for this award. Next, what we'd like to do is ask Mr. Spruill, our band director, to come forward with some students that he has with us this evening. In 1979, the incoming Virginia Band and Orchestra Directors Association established a state marching band festival. The intent of the festival was to recognize bands displaying a comprehensive program. Bands achieving superior ratings at the festival and District Concert Festival were awarded the highest honor that can be bestowed upon bands by the Virginia Band and Orchestras Directors Association, that being called the Virginia Honor Band Award. In 1990, the association established long-term recognitions, including 10-year honor band, 15-year honor roll, and 20-year Hall of Fame awards. The same awards were established to recognize the directors who achieved these same award levels. This is the third consecutive year and the 6th year overall that the Poquoson High School Islander Band and its director, Mr. Doug Spruill, have received this award. Accompanying Mr. Spruill this evening are Brianna Scalute, our senior drum major, Valerie Jekowitz, our guard captain, and Sean Hopkins, an All-Virginia Band recipient. Please join me in congratulating all of them as well as our entire band for this accomplishment.
We will now take a short break and we will be off to TV for about 5 minutes.
Okay, we'll get that started. And we'll move into the next item on the agenda this evening is our presentations and reports. We'll start off this evening with an update from the General Assembly actions by Senator John Miller. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Diggs, Vice Chairman Smith, members of the school board, Superintendent Parrish, thank you so much for having me speak for a couple of minutes. I apologize for my voice. I've been fighting a cold for about 4 days, and as any man will tell you, we're near death's door when we're in this state. So I will out of necessity be brief, but I just want to take a couple of minutes and tell you about some of the major items affecting public education that came before the General Assembly this past session. First, the budget. This was the first time in my 4 years that we were able to start to restore some of the cuts that we've made for the previous 3 years. In the Senate, the highest funding priority was public education. In the budget that we finally compromised on, we restored $75 million over and above what the governor recommended. I know that's not enough. The Senate recommendation was $100 million more through K through 12, but $75 million is a good start, and hopefully we can build on that in the next year. We were also able to hold on to the funding for the hold harmless provision that the governor wanted to eliminate, and I know that was important to Poquoson and other peninsula jurisdictions. Besides the budget, we dealt with several major policy issues. First, we tried to deal with the growing problem of childhood obesity. This is the first generation that probably will not live as long as their parents. The military folks tell me that 70% of the seniors in high school across the country are unfit for military service. 70%. So in addition to being a health problem, childhood obesity is now becoming a national security issue. So there were several alternatives that were offered in the General Assembly. I offered one that said every student should have 30 minutes of physical activity every day while they were in school. The bill that we finally ended up with was one that said we would have 150 minutes of physical education every week for K through 8th grade, with the goal of that coming in the high school years. As you know, the governor vetoed that bill, and it was not overridden. So I hope that we can work together over the next months to try and fashion some sort of legislation that will improve the health of our young people, but still not impede on the educational opportunities that they have while they're at school. We did, again, delay implementing some of the statutes and regulations that dealt with accreditation because of the money crunch that we were under. But we did move ahead with one, and that was the implementation of the financial literacy program for high school students. We felt it was very important, especially in these very difficult economic times, that our children understand financial literacy. And so beginning with students entering the 9th grade in this September, they'll be required before they graduate to take a financial literacy course. So there is some time to sort of work that into the curriculum. We also said that if you offer family life education curriculum, it must include SOL objectives related to dating violence and abusive relationships that it be taught once during middle school and twice during high school. There were several major items that were defeated, including the 65% solution, which would have required school divisions to spend 65% on educational instruction, ill-defined, but that was not passed. I was disappointed the next two items failed to pass. One would allow you all to set the school calendar and decide when you wanted to start school. That's why we have you here, and you ought to be able to make those decisions and not folks in Richmond. But I know that'll be coming back again next year because it always does. It gets closer every year. It got to the Senate floor last year and this year before it was snatched off the floor and sent back to committee where it died once again. The other bill that was also killed would allow school boards to keep any unappropriated funds rather than to spend whether you wanted to or not at the end of the year, just to spend it, use it or lose it. I think good fiscal management would dictate that if you can hang on to something for a greater need in the future, that you be allowed to do that. Finally, the establishment of a statewide uniform grading policy was killed. That's a quick overview of some of the major K through 12 initiatives that came before the General Assembly. I certainly appreciate Superintendent Parrish always being available to me to help walk me through various pieces of legislation, and she is a great advocate for Poquoson, and I appreciate all the work that she does. And I look forward to continuing to work with all of you in the days ahead as we meet the needs of our young people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And speaking on behalf of the board, we really appreciate your service in Richmond and your support of us here locally in Poquoson. I know that Dr. Parrish has been in contact with you often, and when we've had the opportunity to speak, you've always been very supportive, and we really appreciate that.
Well, please continue to call me anytime. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, our next presentation this evening will be our financial update by Mr. Bowen.
Good evening, Chairman Diggs, school board members, and Dr. Parrish. I have just a few topics to update you on this evening. First of all, I want to bring you up to date on our federal stimulus funds, also known as our state fiscal stabilization funds. Our current stimulus funds rest at $503,022. The board's priorities for these funds were, first of all, to cover any mid-year cuts to our current year budget, which we have completed that work, and I'll talk in more detail in just a moment, but also to fund the capital improvement plan of New Horizons. Now, for those folks at home that aren't familiar, New Horizons is a regional education center that Poquoson participates in. In 2008, the city of Poquoson agreed to fund a portion of the capital improvement plan for the city. However, due to the financial pressures on the city side, the school division is picking up this obligation. This obligation has come due, and it's now being required to be paid. The third priority was to address specific capital, maintenance, and technology needs of the school division. Now, these projects that have been identified are technology improvements required for online testing at the elementary level, camera and electronic locks at our high school and our primary school, replacement of the gym floor at our primary school, and then other products or other projects as funds are available. Now, as I said, the first priority of the board was to use stimulus funds to cover any cuts to the current fiscal year. Staff has completed its work on the amendments to the FY11 budget. Now, let me take you back. When we began this budget process, we were dealing with two budgets. We had our FY12 budget, which has been approved by the board and now rests with the city, but we also had amendments to our current budget. Those amendments we've identified as cuts to this fiscal year of $100,000. Those state cuts are largely due to reductions in the local composite index that hold harmless. Senator Miller spoke just moments about that. We didn't lose all that money. We lost about $86,000 of our $494,000. And then we had some miscellaneous and technical adjustments that came to about $13,000. As I said, this was the top priority of the school board. I can say that having these funds available prevented the school division from having to make mid-year cuts to the operating budget, which would have primarily come from the area of personnel. So this evening, I am recommending that the school board approve a transfer of $100,000 in salaries and benefits from our operating budget to the stimulus funds. And this is to account for the loss in state revenue. This request has been addressed in item 6A of your consent agenda, and a reading file is attached. In addition, I'm also recommending that the school board approve a transfer of salary and benefits of $403,022, which is the remaining balance of stimulus funds, also transferring that from the operating budget to stimulus funds. This appropriation that's freed up will be transferred from the salary and benefits categories to operations and maintenance and technology, so we can properly record the expenditures for the capital projects and maintenance and technology projects that I mentioned previously. So basically what we're doing is we're just taking funds from salary and benefits moving the expenses to the stimulus funds, but then the appropriation that freed up in our operating budget, we're transferring that to operations and maintenance and technology, so then we can properly record those technology projects and capital projects. This request has been addressed in item 6B of your consent agenda. And lastly, just last week, we received news that several of our federal programs will be cut for FY12. Those programs that have been identified to us are the Title I, the Special Education Basic Grants, Impact Aid, and Career and Technical Education programs. Now, we don't have the specifics at this point, but what we do know, and what I need to point out, is that the Title I, the Special Education Impact Aid grants all have personnel attached to them. So any cuts that come to these programs could ultimately affect personnel. Now, that's in addition to what we've seen this year from the state, where we've had over $700,000 in state revenue cuts. We've also lost $65,000 of a FLAP grant in which 2 personnel were attached to. And then over the course of the past 3 years, we've seen over $3 million in budget cuts. So federal revenue only represents 5% of our budget, but at this point, any additional cut that we have to absorb is a significant budget impact. That's my presentation.
Thank you. Board, do we have any questions for Mr. Bowen? I'd just like to say thank you for keeping us informed and up to date. I know this time of the year there's a lot of information coming out from the federal level, the state level, and a lot of planning goes into making sure that we have the information that we need to be able to make these decisions. So I appreciate you and your staff for working through this time period. Thank you very much. All right, our next item is our operations update. Mr. Pappas.
Good evening, Chairman Diggs, School Board, Dr. Parrish. This evening it's my pleasure to bring you the operations report. I believe last month I had told you what to anticipate as we came closer to the spring break, and in keeping with Mrs. Hinshaw's second grade class, we worked on the habitat of our schools. Our maintenance crew was able to bring on the new chiller at the middle school just prior to needing it, which was wonderful, and our custodial staff worked diligently to buff up the habitat for our students, faculty, and staff. Tonight, I'm going to give a little presentation about something that impacts all of us during these tough economic times, and it's a new act passed by the federal government in December that takes effect in July, and it's called the Federal Healthy Hunger Free Act of 2010, and I'll explain to you the impact that it has on our school and families. As you can see here, this really reauthorized a pre-existing set of laws known as school lunch program, but it impacts a whole new host of things, and some of those deal directly with us. Over the course of the next several months, the USDA will provide us with ongoing information as to what we need to implement, how to implement it, and by when it needs to be implemented. The Act covers many things, some of which, though, that I'm drawing your attention to that impact us are meal prices. Tough economic times, the federal government has now mandated what we have to charge for meal prices. Employee training will have to be increased to meet the goals of the Act. The nutritional requirements of our menus is going to be augmented, and our local wellness policies are all going to be subject to change and different scrutinization. So, speaking of the mandated meal pricing from our federal government, I've provided the board with a reading file that addresses this because one of the things that you need to look at tonight under other matters is a proposal from me to raise our prices. And this really explains it maybe to others who don't have the advantage of the full reading file that you had to brief yourselves with. But currently, our school division and all school divisions receive 26 cents in federal reimbursement for every fully paid meal. But they receive $2.72 for a free meal. So the government gives us a different value for the different payments. School divisions under this plan must ensure, and it's very wordy, but this is distilled, that we are charging students who pay a full price an amount that is equivalent to the difference between the reimbursement rates. And what that means, given our prices, is that they would like all of our prices to reach $2.46 as an average price for lunch. I'm recommending that we increase our lunch prices at all schools by 10 cents to move towards compliance. This is not a one-time deal. There's a cap. You can only go up 10 cents a year, but you have to go up each year until you reach the goal. And 10-cent increase in breakfast at 2 schools. So what are the next steps for us? Of course, I'll keep you updated as things change and as we have to make enhancements and expend monies to meet the requirements of this new legislation. And one of the things that you may recall 2 months ago, we had our federal audit, our 5-year federal audit. Well, now it's every 3 years. So all the machinations we went through to get prepared and to have numerous days of scrutinization, we'll be doing that every 3 years now. And then Aramark, our food service company, is currently in the process, and we've been working back and forth knowing that this was coming since December, in preparing for changes in the nutritional menu requirements. They're going to shift and require us to change menus to meet nutritional goals. Currently, we have what's called an enhanced menu. We could have got a protein-based menu or some other things, but we have an enhanced menu, which is wonderful. We've been doing lots of things. We added the whole wheat, as you recall. Well, now you're going to be required to have whole wheat. We put it in. We've had to modify a little, but you're going to eat well no matter what. Well, that concludes my summary of our new federal Healthy Hunger Free Act of 2010, which becomes effective July 1st. And that's my report.
Board, any questions for Mr. Powers?
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Carter?
Did I hear you correctly, sir? You said the federal government is mandating what we must charge for meals. Has that always been the case?
They told us what we would get as a reimbursement. We need to operate food service. So we've had latitude in our pricing, but now they're telling you that if you had a price established by your board in the previous year, you must take the difference between that price, the average lunch price, and the difference between the federal reimbursement for a free meal and a federal reimbursement for a paid meal. In our case, that's $2.46. Right. We're charging $1.90. We've got to get up to $2.46.
So in short, yes, they are mandating that we increase our prices during a time in which we know that our families are, and some are struggling economically, but we have to meet the federal mandates because we have to receive the reimbursements.
Right. Not to mention that little U.S. Constitution thing. Now when you say all prices $2.46, is that was that an average or was that across the board?
They expect the average price of lunch, which now we have 4 schools, so conceivably if all 4 schools were charging $2.46, you'd be at the average, but we might have to go to 2 something at the.
Yeah, right. To average out the primary and the high school prices.
Yes,
gotcha.
Sir. Ma'am.
Are you or is Aramark anticipating prices to go up on their end with certain requirements nutritionally? Is that different, the menu?
Well, getting the price increase will cover some of those changes, frankly.
Yeah.
We've all been going to the grocery stores and the gas station, and we see that prices are going up. So that will help. My current concern, frankly, is that every time you increase prices, you might change participation, not precipitation.
As far as you haven't had a chance to really discuss anything with Aramark yet, right? Concerning the nutritional requirements and how they're going to have to change their buying and.
Yeah, they are on top of that. That is one of the big virtues of having them as our partner. We've been working on this. We're ahead of the curve.
Well, go ahead, Rob.
Oh, I'm sorry. When you said there's employee training also, that's now mandated?
Additional training, because they're going to want certain certifications for staff, for all staff.
For the school staff?
Yes, ma'am. The food staff.
The food staff, so Aramark.
And we have several food service employees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is it extra? We don't do that training now?
We do plenty of training now.
That's what I
but
thought.
This is another, it's like an onion. It's just another layer.
So it's more training on
Another
top of all that
certification.
you did.
Get specific requirements that now the federal government will say we need to meet in terms of training. We, as he said, our folks are well trained in a variety of areas, but this is another set of mandates that we're going to have to enact.
Well, Mr. Pappas, they seem to keep throwing you hurdle after hurdle, but you deal with it, and I really appreciate your work.
I have a great
I think
staff.
you do a fine job, and I appreciate your presentation.
We have a great staff.
Anything else, board? Mr. Pappas, I would like to ask a question on a different subject. With the storms of this last weekend, fortunately we were spared the devastation that Gloucester went through. But did we have any damage from this storm?
No, nothing out of the ordinary. No.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pappas. All right, the last item for presentations and reports this evening is our instructional update. Dr. Revia.
Thank you, Chairman Diggs, Vice Chairman Smith, and school board members, and Dr. Parrish. It's my pleasure to give an instructional update, and I was actually going to call this a season, the testing season, but perhaps we might call it the federal mandate season, because as you have heard from Mr. Bowen and then again from Mr. Pappas, I'm going to continue in sharing as we move into our testing season some of the things that we are doing because we think they're in the best interest of students, and some things that we are doing because the federal government has indicated that we need to do those. So I want to begin with what are some of the tests that we take, and also just express appreciation to the school board for the high expectations that you have for us as school employees, our teachers, our staff, to provide strong instruction, but also accompanying that is the high expectations that our parents have for their children and for them to do well on these tests. And combined, I think that really makes the good foundation that occurs in that we are typically one of the highest scoring divisions across the state, and I attribute that to your support, to our community support, as well as the work of the students and the work of our staff, and all of us working together I think makes a huge difference. One of the first testing programs I want to talk about, which is not a federally mandated program, is our advanced placement testing program. During the first 2 weeks of May, a number of our students who are enrolled in AP courses, and some of those who are not but feel like they are capable of showing advanced work, will be taking AP tests. These are set up by the College Board, and our students can take those. And one of the great things about these tests is that if our students score a 3 or better on a 5-point scale, they can earn either college credit and or advanced placement once they get to college and or the university of their choice. And a lot of our Poquoson graduates are leaving us with a number of credits that they can apply towards college, as well as advanced placements so they can skip over some of the basic courses when they first enter school. So I will say this is a great testing program, and again, it will occur the first 2 weeks of May, and we're going to be testing at one of the local area churches to make sure that we have enough room because we have so many students. We've outgrown the community center. So that's a great statement to the instructional program that our teachers are providing. Now I want to move into a different area of testing, and that's career and technical education testing. Many of you are aware that we receive Carl D. Perkins funds from the federal government, and as a part of receiving those funds, we are required to provide opportunities for our students to take tests to receive industry certification. And much like the AP test, they can get advanced placement when they go to a college or university. Being able to obtain an industry certification while they are in high school is also very beneficial to our students. But those tests do cost money, and some of that is covered by the Perkins funds, and some of that is covered by our operational budget. But we are giving these tests over the next few weeks. And another point I'd like to bring up is that next year when our school report card is published by the Virginia Department of Education, we've always had, since the inception of these report cards, our CTE completer status. But this year, when those report cards come out, is also going to post how well our students do on our industry credentialing test. So it'll actually be a pass rate. So much like we are used to right now with our SOL test, we're going to have that same kind of scenario with the CTE test. And finally, the largest testing initiative that we have going in our school division, which will begin prior to our next school board meeting, which is why I wanted to bring it up, is our standards of learning test. And we give these in grades 3 through 8, and then in certain high school courses that have end-of-course tests, much like Algebra 1, Geometry, some of the history courses, science, as well as English 11. These tests are given in order for our students to be able to demonstrate their mastery of the standards of learning that are set by the State Department. And just as a reminder to our school board, as we work on these tests, that these are the tests and the student scores on these tests are what are used to determine whether we as a school division are accredited according to state standards as well as federal standards. So when we come back again in September, we'll be talking about how our students scored and whether we've met AYP, which is adequate yearly progress. And the other thing is to note that the State Department this week just released the increased annual measurable objectives. Many of you are aware that we will in the next few years have an objective where the 100% of our students pass 100% of the tests 100% of the time. So we know that that's in our future, and just please know that we are preparing our students. And as we think of the testing season, we would ask that parents, when you know your children are taking tests, to please help make sure that they get a good night's rest, eat a good breakfast, and come to school really pumped up and ready to demonstrate what we know is their ability to do really well. In addition to the daily instruction that our teachers are providing, it is also the season when our schools, our administrators, as well as our teachers are looking to provide additional support, which they may do in before and after school activities, as well as maybe some after school kinds of study sessions. So parents, please know if your student is struggling to contact the school, and I know that we'll be working with you. Kind of switch gears just a little bit. We've talked about a number of the tests that we are giving, but another big project that we are in the process of undergoing in our school division is another federal audit, and that's the federal program monitoring audit that is being done of our special education program. And this has required hundreds of hours on the part of our staff to pull student records, to review student records. Mrs. Feltman, who's our Director of Student Services, has been working with each of our school staff in order to make sure that we have everything prepared. Next week, we will have 2 auditors who will be coming, and they will visit each of our schools. They will randomly pull student records. They will interview teachers. They'll interview support staff. They'll interview our administrators, and all of this information will be compiled to determine if we are in compliance with the federal mandates for special education. All of this does take a lot of time on behalf of our staff, and I want to thank them in advance because I know that they've been working very diligently in order to prepare for this. So hopefully by May, and if not by May, as soon as we get those results back, we'll be sharing those with you. Because again, just like the food service audit, they come, they visit, they give us an initial report, but then they'll give us a more comprehensive report a few weeks after they're here. So I think you can see in the weeks ahead, prior to our next school board meeting, we will have a lot going on in our school division. In addition to just instruction, we're doing a lot of testing, and that testing has huge implications for us as a school division. So with that, I conclude my report.
Or any questions for Dr. Revia? Thank you very much for the update.
You're welcome.
It's definitely going to be moving into, as you said, the testing phase of testing season. Very busy for our students. All right, that will move us into our consent agenda. Mr. Smith, would you take us into that?
The consent agenda tonight, we have authorization to transfer expenses to the federal stimulus funds to account for a reduction in state revenue in 2011 enclosed. Authorization to transfer appropriations and expenses to federal stimulus funds for capital, maintenance, and technology needs. Reading file 6A above. Approval of financial reports enclosed. Authorization to change appropriations for in-school payroll enclosed. Personnel action enclosed. Authorization to dispose of surplus property enclosed. I move that we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Would you please poll the board?
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Inslee?
Abstain.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Mr. Melton?
Aye.
Ms. Sidner?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Diggs?
Aye.
The motion passed by a vote of 6 to 1 abstain.
Thank you. Now we'll move into other matters for consideration, and while it's normal practice to have our approval of minutes in our consent agenda, we had several board members that for various reasons were not present at some of those meetings in March, so we've moved the minutes into this area under other matters, so we'll go through those one at a time. First one is consideration of approval of minutes of March regular meeting and work session March 15th enclosed. Do I have a motion for adoption of those minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any comments or discussions on the motion? Hearing none, if you'd please poll the board.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Inslee?
Abstain.
Mr. Carter?
Abstain.
Mr. Melton?
Aye.
Ms. Sidner?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Abstain.
Chairman Diggs?
Aye.
The motion passed by a vote of 4 to 3 abstain.
Thank you. All right, next item is consideration approval of minutes for the public hearing and work session on March 21st. I have a motion for acceptance of those minutes.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any comments or discussions? Would you please poll the board?
Okay. Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Inslee?
Abstain.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Mr. Melton?
Abstain.
Ms. Sidner?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Abstain.
Chairman Diggs?
Aye.
The motion passed by a vote of 4 to 3 abstain.
Thank you. Now we have consideration of approval of minutes of March special meeting on March 29th enclosed. Do I have a motion to adopt those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments or discussions? Hearing none, if you would please poll the board.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Inslee?
Abstain.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Mr. Melton?
Aye.
Ms. Sidner?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Abstain.
Chairman Diggs?
Aye.
The motion passed by a vote of 5 to 2 abstain.
Thank you. Our next item is consideration of approval of proposed increase to meal prices for school year 2011-2012. Dr. Parrish, do you want to comment on this?
Sure. I don't think I need to say much more because I think Mr. Pappas really explained the increases that are in here. Please note that we have asked for a slight increase in the adult meal as well, since we're having to bump the student meals up. I think that he did an excellent job of making sure that everybody understands that, we're having to do this because of new mandates. We're going to continue to need to do this as those mandates come into play. And I know many members of our community, I think, will have probably seen in the media other school divisions are moving forward with these price increases as well across our area because of these same mandates. So we will certainly update you, as Mr. Pappas said, as we get more information on the new regulations that are going to, I think, impact us. We are a little concerned about participation rates going down because if those rates go down, we may find that Aramark struggles in breaking even, which is what their goal is essentially for us. So it's something that we will certainly monitor. Unfortunately, too, as Mr. Miller indicated, we know that we do have some child health and obesity issues, but what we have found is oftentimes students just stop buying our lunches when they're too healthy. So that's another reason, too, we're concerned about their participation rates. So we will keep you posted, but at this point, I do recommend to you approval of the proposed increases in meal prices for the school year 2011 to 2012.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for adoption of the approval of the proposed increases in meal prices for school year 2011-2012?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or discussions? I'd just like to say, I think you definitely, the way you discussed it, Dr. Parrish, it's important that we balance the nutritional value versus the flavor for the students. It doesn't do us any good to have really nutritional meals if the students aren't participating. And Gary, I think you hit it right on the head also with the federal government coming in and dictating to us what we do. I just appreciate our staff and the process of working with the students and making adjustments as needed as we go through to make sure that we're providing the best value and the most nutritional meal to our children. Any other discussions or comments? Hearing none, would you please poll the board?
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Inslee?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Mr. Melton?
Aye.
Ms. Sidner?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Diggs?
Aye.
The motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Next item is consideration of approval of the Perkins grants for the school year 2011-2012. Dr. Parrish.
Yes, since we're taking the opportunity this evening to highlight many of the mandates and experiences we have through requirements that the federal government gives us, I thought I would just provide this little bit of information. We are asking you to approve the Perkins grant for next year. As you know, in your reading file, we do indicate that we only get about $17,000 from this grant. We do use it for things like equipment and professional development. We are concerned that we may see some of that cut as a result of the most recent federal budget cuts. But I also thought you would find it interesting that for $17,000, our staff has to complete 40 pages of work for that money. So just to have the community and everyone to have a sense of the work that goes behind all of these audits, the paperwork we have to complete, not only at the state, the federal level, but also the state. But I think it gives you a real sense of what we're doing. But at this point, with the budget cuts we're facing, $17,000 is $17,000 that we need. So we're going to do that work and take care of it. But I just wanted to highlight that because I think oftentimes folks don't realize what it takes for us to actually get some of these dollars, especially these federal dollars. So with all that said, I do recommend approval of the Perkins grant for school year 2011 and 2012 as presented this evening.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for adoption of the approval of the Perkins grants for school year 2011-2012?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Comments?
40 pages, huh?
40 pages.
That's over $4,000 a page.
There you go. That's a good way. There you
That's
go. We can
right.
look at it that way.
She may pass that to you next time.
400. My fault. I was trying to
Still
make it more than
pricey.
it was.
Still pricey. You do a lot of work for that little bit of money you beg for. I know.
Yeah.
All right, would you please poll the board?
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Inslee?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Mr. Melton?
Aye.
Ms. Sidner?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Diggs?
Aye.
The motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Next, we have consideration of approval of proclamations, and we have 4 this evening. We have a proclamation for the National School Nurse Day, proclamation for Teacher Appreciation Week, proclamation for Military Child Month, and proclamation for Child Nutritional Appreciation Week. Do we have a motion to accept the approval of these proclamations?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Have any discussion or comments? I've got some comments, but I'm going to hold those to public comment. So hearing none, then we'll hold the board, please.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Inslee?
Aye.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Mr. Melton?
Aye.
Ms. Sidner?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Diggs?
Aye.
The motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Next, we'll move into public comment. Do we have any this evening?
We do not.
Thank you very much. So we'll move into communications and other matters. Dr. Parrish.
Yes, first, I would also like to take the opportunity to welcome Mr. Inslee to the board. And I'm glad to see him here this evening because he's been very engaged in a number of orientation meetings during the course of the last week, getting lots of information, and has been very patient with us and asked great questions. And he's here, so we didn't overwhelm him in those meetings. So thank you for joining the board, and I know I personally, as do the rest of us, look forward to working with you in the coming months and years. So thank you. I also want to mention, because we're so aware of certainly the tragedy and devastation that our community members in Gloucester are facing. Please know that I have immediately did contact the superintendent and offer any assistance that we could provide to the school system, because certainly our thoughts go out not only to community members and families, students, and the school staff, especially of the middle school that are over there. So we have made the offer. At this point, they don't need anything, but I don't know that in the coming weeks or months they won't, but we'll certainly be communicating closely with them as we move through the coming weeks. But I did want to publicly acknowledge that we know that's a very challenging time for them, and our thoughts remain with them. I do want to remind everybody, because I can't go a meeting without it, to just let everybody know where we are in the budget process. The school board, as everyone knows, did approve the budget, and it is with City Council right now, and they're considering the local funding portion of the budget. I have to personally thank them because they have been very supportive through the process and continue to be. And I know that next Monday at 6 o'clock we do have the joint meeting between you and City Council, where you'll be able to talk about some of these budget issues. So we should be nearing the end of this year's budget process soon, and then we'll, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, be starting next year's budget process in the near future, especially with the outlook that we have. So I just did want to let the community know that where we were in that process. And finally, Dr. Revia talked about all of the testing and work that we're doing during the coming months, but it's also spring. And so we have a number of events that our students are involved in, and I know that Melly will probably talk about them, but I do encourage the community to come out to the games or to the various concerts, chorus and band and others, plays that are going on. It is a wonderful time to take the chance to come into our schools and see all the good things that are going on. So I hope that folks take the advantage of those activities that are out there. And then with that, I turn it on to Melly.
Maureen Flood, a para-educator at Poquoson Primary School, has been selected as the Para-Educator of the Year for all of her help with kindergarten remediation in the area of reading. She was presented with this on April 16th at the Newport News Reading Council banquet. Poquoson Primary School students read over 2,011 minutes per month for the annual STARS reading. Mrs. Butler put a parrot on her head to go along with the pirate theme since they achieved their goal. The Odyssey of the Mind team at the elementary school took first place at the state competition and now moves on to the world competition. The elementary school is having an SCA Empty Bowls ice cream social fundraiser, followed by a student talent show this Thursday starting at 5. Members of SCA have each made and painted a bowl that was fired in the kiln, which will all be raffled off during the talent show's intermission. This social will raise money that will be donated to the Peninsula Food Bank. And these bowls are on display at the front of the elementary school. Poquoson Middle School Scare Club is having an Earth Day dance on April 22nd at 6:30 p.m. April 25th is a student-teacher holiday. April 27th is the individual spring picture day at the middle school. Also on April 27th is the blood drive between 2:30 and 7:30 p.m. and you can call the school to make an appointment for that. The middle school's Barnes & Noble book fair is May 2nd through May 8th at the Barnes & Noble located on Jefferson Avenue. The National Junior Honor Society inductions are Friday, May 6th at 6 p.m. At the high school, Amy West, Emily Brawley, Amanda Peters, Kayla Pomerantz, and Mary Ligon were selected to attend Girls State this year with Lauren Russell and Lydia Fleck as alternates. Fourth quarter began on April 11th. Senior announcement and cap and gown delivery will be April 27th. The Poquoson High School Drama Department presents American Idol by Craig Sidaro. The National Honor Society inductions are Wednesday, April 27th at 7 p.m. Congratulations to the PHS Islander Band for winning first place parade, first place drum majors, second place color guard, first place drum line, third place symphonic band, and second place percussion ensemble on the spring trip this past weekend in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Also, congratulations to the PHS Chorus for winning first place with a superior rating in the mixed chorus competition, which was also held in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. That's my report.
Thank you.
The students have been busy, haven't they? Very busy. I really enjoyed Fisher Deadman's inspirational reading of Take Time for the Little Things. I just thought that was wonderful, and he did a great job. And looking forward to everybody getting appreciated next month. Of course, the nurses, teachers, military children, and I thought it was ironic that it was Child Nutrition Appreciation Week next month, too. So thank you for all you do, nurses, teachers, military children, and you lunch people in Aramark.
All right. Yeah, thank you all for welcoming me to the board, both board members and staff. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you and preparing or helping the schools prepare our kids for what's there to see later on in life for our future leaders of both the city, the state, and the nation. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Inslee and Mr. Smith. I'm glad that you're back with us as well. And congratulations, Melly, and the rest of the course. You guys did a great job.
Welcome to the board, Mr. Inslee. I'm no longer the new guy, which is nice to have on board. Dr. Reevy and I attended the Peninsula Council Workforce Development Education and Training Subcommittee meeting today. Mostly good news, but always, budget problems. But we got an update on the Youth Career Cafes. The Youth Career Expo that was just recently held was a success, and the upcoming summer camps. And we got to see two very interesting career videos that were 9 were submitted. We saw 2 of the ones that are actually in the running for, I guess, first place and prize money over there. But what kind of concerned us, we also heard tech prep money is also starting to go away, and it looks like it's going to be cut, and that's going to affect things like the Governor's Academy, the Career Expo next year, the Exploratory Saturdays, and they're also thinking that Perkins funding is going to dry up a little bit at a time. So those things do concern us. Particularly concerned Joe Johnson and New Horizons and Sean Avery with the Workforce Investment Board because they sponsor so many things that help our children move from the high school to the world of work and into their careers. So it does concern us that we see these funding cuts, but they're actually going to happen. So that's all that I have.
Welcome, Mr. Inslee. I look forward to working with you.
I'd like to welcome Thorben. He and I go back. He was chair of the Wetlands Board when I was on that, and I told him tonight 2 different boards from what we used to have there to what we have here. I'd also like to compliment staff on good reports tonight. I think they're very thorough, and that's why you don't get a lot of questions, because you answer the questions in the presentations. and you do a really good job at it.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to start off also saying congratulations, Melly. It's great. Hope you really enjoy the Girls State. Also, I'd like to thank PEF and all those that support PEF. Seems like every board meeting we're seeing either a presentation or some other way that PEF is supporting our schools and our students, and I just really appreciate the community. I know the foundation itself is doing good work and working hard, but it's also all the people that support PEF and donate to it through the many different things that they do that are putting that money straight into our schools and to our students. And it, particularly with us doing the cuts and the other funds being dried up from the state and federal level, to see our citizens come out and support the schools like this is very encouraging. So thank you to all those that support PEF and for the PEF for all the work that they do for our schools. Said I wanted to make one comment about the proclamation, not to hold one out over the other. I have a little bit of an issue with our proclamation for the Teacher Appreciation Week. I believe everybody up here will join me that we don't want to have a week of appreciation for our teachers. It really is 52 weeks out of the year. Our teachers, some of them are on different contracts or whatever it is, but they are working with our students and preparing all year long. If it's not in the classroom, it's at their home or attending education or doing things on their own. I can't say enough of the teachers here in Poquoson. I wish that we could show you more appreciation monetarily. We're doing what we can to support you in that, but I want you to know from this board, we really, really do appreciate you 52 weeks out of the year. So thank you to the teachers. And with that, we will adjourn our meeting and move into a work session. We have 4 items on the work session this evening, and we have a reading program update, virtual learning, student representative of the board discussion, and we'll move into a closed meeting for discussion of personnel matters. And with that, we are adjourned.